Good evening and welcome to our next public information on Marshfield community electricity. As you can see, there's not a huge crowd, so we can be, if people would like to move closer, they can. If everyone's comfortable in their seats, that's okay too. The real important part of this program is really everyone, I hope, came with their questions, because we want everyone to feel really comfortable about the choices that they make. Tonight I'm joined by John O'Rourke, who will be speaking and doing the presentation and really answering the questions. He's the professional from Good Energy to the town's consultant, us and a number of our neighboring towns that are venturing into this. Just to remind folks, town meeting approved community aggregate electric back in 2019. Took a couple of years to get us to this point. We had COVID. In the midst of that, we had to go through Department of Public Utilities hearing that finally got approved this summer, and then in earnest we got moving forward in the fall, and that brings us to where we are today, getting ready for that March date to actually go into greener energy and having the ability to purchase greener energy. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to John O'Rourke from Good Energy, and he'll do the presentation, and then we'll get into questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you all for being here. As Michael said, my name is John O'Rourke. I'm the Director of Marketing and Municipal Affairs for Good Energy. We're the aggregation consultants that put this program together for Marshfield, and right now we have a bunch of other clients here in Massachusetts. I'm going to go over a quick presentation, and then we'll get into the fun part of this, which is basically asking and answering questions. Kylie. This is our customer-facing team here in Massachusetts. Philip Carr is our Managing Director of Energy Sales. Stefano Loretto is Business Development, is myself, and Patrick Roach, who's Director of Innovation. Essentially, we are a national company. We're backed up, our team is backed up by 40 professionals in either analytics, research, customer service, or administration. And essentially, go to the next one, John. We have 20 years experience on the national level, and when Good Energy came into this market, they got some local people, essentially combined the local experience with the national experience and put together our team. We've been in the market since 2014, and we presently have 65 Massachusetts clients. Interestingly enough, Marshfield went to bid with 5 other communities, including Cohasset, Situate, Rochester, Westwood, and Uxbridge. So that's an aggregation in itself. We operate an aggregation of 25 communities here in Massachusetts that is the largest in Massachusetts and recently became the largest in the country. And we're kind of proud of that. This gives you an idea of where our plans are. We have 45 active plans. We have current launches of 7. That's Marshfield is included in that. We have plans at DPU that are pending approval, 3. We've got plans in development, 4. And we've got new committed clients of 6. We're also talking to about another 8 communities that are interested. The process that Marshfield and the other 5 communities that they're in the aggregation with, they went through a process with the Department of Public Utilities. It took a long time. Part of that was because of COVID, part of that was for other reasons, but essentially it took 2.5 years to get through the regulatory process, which is really kind of unusual. What aggregation does, it only affects the supply side of your bill, We're only going out for supply. Essentially, your relationship with EverSource doesn't change. You'll still get a bill from EverSource. They will do everything for you that they do now. And essentially, the only thing that changes on that bill is the name of the supplier, which in this case is Direct Energy, and the rate. Everything else stays the same. And as I say, your relationship with EverSource stays the same. If you have outages, you have downlines, you have other problems, you still call EverSource. The goals of aggregation. All right, essentially, let me go into a little history first. Massachusetts was the first state in the United States to pass what is known as a municipal electricity aggregation law. That was back in 1999. And essentially every law that has been passed in the United States since then has been modeled on the Massachusetts law. Essentially what the law is trying to do is trying to give residents and businesses more competitive choice, longer-term stable electricity rates. You know, your utilities go to bid every 6 months for their load. Typically, our contracts are in the 30 to 36 month range. This contract, because of the way the market is now, is 21 months long. All right, this is probably the shortest contract we've done almost ever. And again, that's because of the conditions in the market. Of course, what we try to do is we try to potentially get lower electricity rates, although we have to say, essentially we have to put a disclaimer in there that savings are not guaranteed. One of the things that's happening with aggregation, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, communities are using it as a way to get more renewable energy into the choices for their residents. Here in Marshfield, Marshfield said, we're interested in the environment. We want to put a little more renewable energy into what's known as the standard product. So they chose to put 10% more into that default or standard product. And then you have the two choices of basic going down to the minimum requirement and then up to 100%. What this does, a very important thing that this does, is that it increases consumer protection. I'm sure many of you have gotten phone calls, solicitations in the mail, maybe knocks on your door from those people going around selling electricity or wanting to get you into a contract. Essentially, some of those firms are very reputable. Unfortunately, some aren't. And you can get put into a situation where there may be a teaser rate for a while, and then when you're not paying attention to your bill, that rate goes up. This is an example of that large aggregation we have of 25 communities, and you can see how this has fared with the EverSource rates since January of 2016. This, they're in their 3rd contract, and we're going to start renewing them for their 4th contract. So you can see that orange line is the rate for the aggregation, and the blue line is the rate for EverSource. So we have done very well over that 7-year period. Everyone who is on the basic service of EverSource got one of these letters. This is known as a customer notification letter. It lays out the plan for you, it lays out the choices, the options, has some frequently asked questions, and essentially we can't do anything without the approval of the Department of Public Utilities. This letter has been approved by the Department of Public Utilities. They like a lot of information in these letters. and unfortunately sometimes it can be a little confusing, all right? So anyone who got one of these letters, you're on the basic service of Eversource. If you didn't get one of these letters, it's probably because you have a third-party supplier already, and we're not allowed to market to those customers. The options, the first part of that letter gives you the options. The first option is to do nothing, and if you do nothing, you'll be automatically enrolled in what's known as the standard product. If you want either the basic product or the 100%, you would call Direct Energy, and they would put you in either what's known as opt-down or opt-up from that standard product. And then, of course, if you don't want to participate, you can either send in the opt-out card, you can call Direct Energy, or you can go to the website, which is electricity.marshfield-ma.gov, and fill out an online opt-out form. So there's plenty of choices here. All right, this is the product summary. This could be somewhat confusing sometimes. It has the Marshfield standard, and it has the basic going down and the plus going up. And it compares the rates to Eversource. That Eversource rate is in effect from January 1 through June 30 of this year. And then they'll come out with a new rate. This is a chart that the DPU wants us to put in, and it can be very confusing. It's the renewable energy detail. It gives you an idea of the amount of renewable energy in the Eversource Basic, in the Marshfield Basic, in the Standard, and you can see that has that 10% more in that column to the right. And then you have Marshfield Plus that basically gives you enough to get it up to 100%. Essentially, you know, these are the choices depending upon how concerned you are with the environment and how interested you are in renewable energy. And then there's also some frequently asked questions. And again, we try to cover, we have limited space, so we try to cover those that are most asked. Essentially, you still get that one bill from Eversource. The only thing that changes on that bill is the name of the supplier and the rate. Your relationship doesn't change with Eversource. You call them with whatever problems you might have as you do now. You can switch in the program between those different options if you wish. You can leave the program at any time without penalty or termination fees. Anybody who is on a budget plan or on any kind of a discount program, those stay in place. They're not affected. Same with those who have solar panels or on a net metering agreement, not affected by the aggregation. Those two agreements are side by side and neither impacts the other. Interesting, if you have a small business and you're tax exempt, you can just send your tax exempt certificate into Direct Energy just to maintain that tax exemption. And essentially, you know, on the website you have, it's electricity.marshfield-ma.gov, has most of the information you'll need, and essentially, or you can call that number, that's 781-226-1282 number. I just want to emphasize that this period we're going through now is a required 30-day customer notification period. Again, it's required by the Department of Public Utilities. We can't do anything without their approval. Anyone who's on the basic service of Eversource got the letter, and essentially you get to choose whether you want to stay in the program or not. After this 30-day initial period, this official period. You can go leave the program anytime you want without penalty or termination fees. We always get this question. If I'm in the aggregation, am I going to get inferior service from Eversource? Or am I going to have any interruptions in my service? No, not at all. All right. Since deregulation in the late 1990s, the utilities, Eversource and National Grid, do not make any money on the supply of the electricity. That's a pass-through to them. They only make money on the distribution. So they don't care where you get the electricity from. They're not, they're not going down the street saying, oh yeah, they're getting it from us and they're getting it from ABC, supply company. They don't do that. Everything is the same as it is now. The service you get now is going to be the same. You're not going to risk any inferior service because you're with the aggregation. Again, I want to emphasize, if you're on budget billing or any of the programs offered by Eversource, discount programs, they stay in place. For those who pick the 100%, the plus, the difference between the price of the plus and the basic, that slice, okay, because we got we obtained the recs from a company in Boston called Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They are a nonprofit, and they are the gold standard here in Massachusetts for sourcing what is known as Massachusetts Class 1 renewable energy certificates. Because of that, all right, there's a tax deduction for that slice of green energy that's above what the basic cost is, all right? So you can go to their site each year at tax time, and you can fill out a form for your tax deduction if you want to be on that 100%. Here's my contact information, my email address, and my cell phone number. You can call me anytime with questions. All right, and what we'll do now is we'll open it up for questions.
John, just before we do that, I want to recognize Lynn Fiddler from the Board of Select Board is here this evening, and she just wants to say a couple of quick words, and then we'll get into questions.
Hi. Good to see you. Hi, how are you? So folks, this is the second time that I've participated in this informational session. So I want to tell you, the first time I sat through the session, there were some very poignant questions at the end. So as you're going through, don't be afraid to ask the questions. We all will learn something as you ask the questions. But I want you all to also know that I really appreciate you. The town appreciates you for being here. I know it's a dinner time, or for some of you, get kids ready for baths or whatever it is. But, so I appreciate you being here and listening, and I think this is a good thing for the town of Marshfield. For the citizens, it doesn't come back to the actual pocketbook of our government, but he'll explain that as well. So just feel free to ask some great questions, and I appreciate you being here. And thank you to Michael for setting this up. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Just very quickly, what we'll do is I'm going to recognize folks. We're here, and John will answer everyone's questions, so we're not going to leave until everyone's comfortable and they've had a chance to ask their questions. If you could just raise your hand and I'll recognize you, and we have a microphone up back, or if you think you can talk loud enough from your chair, that's fine too. It's not that many of us here, so we'll open it up for questions. Who has a question? You can raise your hand. This young lady right there.
There was a chart with the rates on it, and the aggregates appear to be 11 cents right now, where Eversource was 25 cents. Is that a rate that's locked in for the 21 months? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I asking that clearly?
Yep.
Okay.
Say, Kylie, can we put up slide 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is part of the customer notification letter you got. These aggregation rates are fixed through December 2024. So it goes from the March meter read, okay, to the meter read in December 2024, and they remain fixed. Now your Eversource rate is going to change every 6 months. And right now, as this went to press, we have 25,649 on there, okay? It actually changed a bit since then. It's now actually 25,776. But you know, not that much of a difference, but that is going to change, probably, that'll change on July 1, okay? And we'll know that new rate in the middle of May. Okay, so everybody will be informed of what their rate is going forward to the end of the year. All right? And does that answer your question?
No, not really. So so in May we'll be told, it was my understanding there was locked in for 21 months. What's locked in?
Yes. These rates that you see here,
Yeah.
of the aggregation are locked in for the 21 months that start on the March meter read and go to the December meter read of 2024.
Oh, 24.
Yeah, the aggregation rates are fixed.
Okay.
It's the Eversource rate that's going to change every 6 months.
Okay.
Next question. Gentleman up back.
What happens at the end of December 2024, we notified of a new billing cycle?
What we will start doing in the spring of 2024 is watching the market. We have analysts that are in the market every day because we also have a large commercial and industrial clientele. So our analysts are in the market every day buying electricity, or at least getting quotes for electricity. And essentially, what we'll start doing in spring of 2024, just about a little over a year from now, all right, we'll start looking at the market to come up with the best time to go out for a competitive bid with national suppliers to start on that December meter read and moving forward. Does that answer your question?
Will we automatically be enrolled on December 2024?
You will be notified as of the change in rate and if there's a change in the supplier. And you will have a choice again of either saying, yeah, I want to stay with the program, or I want to opt out. Same as now.
And how critical is the February deadline this year? I think it's February 26th.
Sunday.
Yeah, the deadline for opting out during this customer notification period is February 26th, okay? That's when this big transition goes and everyone on the basic service who wants to stay in will be switched over. That's the cutoff date, okay? You can opt out anytime after that, all right? But during this official period, which is required by the Department of Public Utilities, that's the cutoff date.
Or you could switch from the Marshfield Basic to the Marshfield Plus after that or before that?
Either way.
Okay. Thank you.
Next question. Gentleman up back.
So if you don't want to opt out, but you want to change the level, do you have to do that by the 26th?
If you want to go into one of the other levels, either going down or going up, you can call Direct Energy before the 26th.
So you have to do it by the 26th?
Yeah. Well, you know, you can do it after the 26th, but what's going to happen is you'll initially be put into the standard product. That'll change on the March meter read, and then you can switch.
Got it.
young lady right over there.
If you opt out and down the road you change your mind, you want to go back in, is that possible? Are there any penalties involved?
Yes, that's possible, no penalties involved.
You still get the same rate?
You do get the same rate. Now, there's a little bit of the suppliers have the option, okay? If you opt out and then you want to come back in, they have the option of putting you in at a market rate. However, we have an informal agreement with our suppliers that they will bring you in at the contract rate. Of course, if they see you opting out and opting in a lot, they don't have to do that.
Next question, this young lady right down front.
Now you're with Good Energy, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so do you get some kind of a kickback? I mean, if you get, 3 towns in a row.
We get a commission on from the supplier. The town this doesn't cost the town any money, and they don't get any financial benefit out of it. They're giving this benefit to the residents, okay? We get paid at the rate of 1/10 of a penny per kilowatt hour.
I guess you're not Jared.
Okay? Now, let me put that into perspective. Remember 100-watt light bulbs? I don't think you can find them anymore, but remember them? Okay. If you burn a 100-watt light bulb for 10 hours, that's 1 kilowatt hour.
Okay.
So we get paid 1/10 of a penny on that. Okay?
Young woman up back.
Thank you for that. I wanted to follow up on this woman's question and your answer. If you opt out now and you decide you want to join the aggregate later on, are you told in advance what your rate is and given an option whether you want to choose it or not?
If you opt out now and decide later on you want to opt in, you'll be given the contract rate, the rate that's fixed, the aggregation rate, okay?
And are you told what that contract rate is?
Yeah, it's right up here.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if the supplier,
You mentioned market rate.
yeah, if the supplier sees you bouncing in and out, okay, and you do that more than once, they're going to say, wait a second, we're going to give this person a market rate. But if you opt out now and then opt in later on, you're okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question.
Sure.
I live in Connecticut, and I used to use different energy companies. Do they give you a discount if you're like a group? Is that what they're giving you?
Well, that's essentially the reason why Marshfield aggregated with Cohasset, Situate, Rochester, Westwood, and Uxbridge to increase the load, to make it more attractive, and also to make the price a little lower.
Another question. Woman of family.
Your company will be notifying Eversource? We don't have to do anything with Eversource to let them know?
Eversource is notified by Direct Energy. Okay? What will happen is they do everything electronically. Okay? So as soon as the 26th is the deadline to put that card in the mail. Okay? The actual date that Direct Energy tells Eversource about those people is actually about 4 days later, because you need the mail. They need to get those in the mail. Okay? If you put it out on the 26th, might not get there for 3 days. Okay? So, Direct Energy takes all of the information about 4 or 5 days after that 26th date, okay? And they say to Eversource, we're going to send you this file. All these people are in the aggregation, okay? And Eversource will take that information and they will switch you over on the March meter read. That's what happens.
Was there a card to send send back, I mean, I know I have an envelope, or where was it located? The envelope was going to where?
Along with this letter, you received what's known as an opt-out card and an envelope to stick it into and just mail it
No, I
back.
wasn't gonna opt out, but there was another thing that, it was an envelope, but it was going, maybe that was the envelope, was it going to Tulsa or something like that? That's it.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, why, was that where Good Energy is?
No, we're the consultants. Direct Energy, their main headquarters for administrating all of these things is in Tulsa.
Okay.
Just, John, I'm gonna just follow up on that too. So, at the last public information session, we had a number of our residents that were calling the numbers, and they were upset that the Direct Energy is located out of Marshfield, out of Massachusetts. Unfortunately, Direct Energy is one of the big energy suppliers in the United States. They're a private for-profit company, so we can't control where their offices are located. But they are the company that's the provider right now. Questions? Who hasn't asked a question? This young lady way up back with the eyeglasses on her head.
So my question is, I know this has to do with the supply charges, but what happens with the delivery charge? Can Eversource charge us more if we opt in versus what they charge the Eversource company, customers?
No, they're not going to charge any participants in the aggregation any more for delivery. You will continue to get, everyone will get the same charges per kilowatt hour as they do now. Okay?
John, so at the last session that we had, it was kind of beneficial for everybody. Can you hear me? Oh, I usually have a yelling voice. So at the last session that we had, there was a few questions that I kind of referred back to after I was driving home. And one of them was the opt-in, opt-out, and the reasons for why folks have to opt out in the town of Marshfield. So can you just explain to the folks, because that seemed to be something of concern.
There's always a question about why is this an opt-out program and not an opt-in program? Okay? As I said, Massachusetts was the first state in the United States to establish a municipal electricity aggregation law, and it was established as an opt-out. So the simple answer is, the law says it's an opt-out. Okay, so that's why it's an opt-out. Every law in the United States that's been successful has been modeled on the Massachusetts law. More recently, you had Rhode Island and New Hampshire who had municipal aggregation laws in place for 15, 20 years that were opt-in laws. Well, what happens with an opt-in law is the supplier doesn't know what he's bidding on, okay? The supplier has no idea whether they're going to get 80% of the clients, 20% of the clients, and in what time period they're going to get them. With our aggregations, the suppliers know we're going to get between 80 and 85% of the eligible customers in the aggregation within that 30-day period, all right? So they know what they're bidding on. They know what the load is. They know how many people are going to be involved. So they know the load that they're bidding on. If it was the opposite, if it was opt-in, you would have no idea, all right? And therefore, you wouldn't get anybody bidding. You know, we deal only with the top national suppliers, and you know, these are good business people. They're not going to bid on something that's they don't know the answer to. All right. You all remember that game when we were kids at birthday parties, pin the tail on the donkey? Okay. If you had an opt-in, that's what it would be like, trying to pin the tail on the donkey. All right. Opt-out is you take the blindfold off and you pin the tail on the donkey. All right. That's what they want to do. All right. That's the business case for why these things are successful. Both Rhode Island and New Hampshire, about 3 years ago, changed their law to make it an opt-out rather than an opt-in. And now, we're active in both of those states now. Now they're getting some good action on aggregations. We're going out to bid in Rhode Island with about 8 communities, including the city of Providence. So, and we're doing that within the next couple of months. So they're seeing some action and they're seeing some success. That's the reason why it's opt-out versus opt-in.
Thank you for sharing.
Questions, gentlemen?
I had a question, so for the bill that's coming after we do opt-in for the change, would there be like a double amount on your bill for the Eversource days and then your new days?
I didn't catch the last part of that.
So would there be like 2 charges on your bill for like the Eversource days and then the new days?
No, essentially, the way your bill is now, your supply line on your bill will say Eversource fixed service. And you have one line that says the number of kilowatt hours you use and the rate. Okay? On the bills after the change, it'll say direct energy, and it'll give you a rate along that one line. There's nothing that's double there. It just replaces that Eversource basic service.
Another question, this young man right up there.
What happens if there's a lot more people who opt out than you plan on?
Well, we've never had that experience here in Massachusetts.
What if you do, though?
But this rate is guaranteed. Doesn't make any difference whether there are 10,000 people in or 1. The rate's guaranteed.
So you lose money?
What's that?
So there'll be a loss to the company? There'll be a loss. So if you don't get, if the model doesn't work and more people opt out, and you're going to keep the rate the same, then you stand to lose money on this.
We don't lose any money on it. The only thing we get from it is that volume commission fee. Okay, it would be theoretically the supplier that would lose money, but essentially we've never had a situation like that.
This young lady right here.
Thank you. John, if you were a Marshfield resident, which choice would you make?
Excellent question.
Well, interestingly enough, where I live in Massachusetts, okay, I'm in an aggregation with one of our competitors, okay, because the rate is less and we get some more green energy from it, okay. Now, again, the choices you have, okay, are basically that 10%, which is the standard. If you're concerned about more green energy, okay, then fine. Just, you don't have to do anything. You'll be put in the standard. If you want to go down to basic or up to plus, you just call direct energy. And all they do is they put a different code on your account. That's all they do.
Question, this young man right down front.
When you call up, if you have another supplier and you call it up to transfer into direct energy, do you just tell the other supplier that you're transferring there?
You would call, if you're on a third-party supplier, you want to call that supplier, make sure there aren't any termination fees, okay? If you've been in a contract more than a year, there usually aren't termination fees. And just let them know that you're going to be switching. Enroll in the program, actively enroll through the form online. Direct Energy takes that and notifies your third-party supplier that there's going to be a switch. It goes through Eversource and they make the switch.
Question, the young lady in the white jacket.
Yeah. I have a third party, Constellation, and it was a 3-year contract. It's up in April. And it's a very good rate.
Did you send me an email?
No?
No, you didn't. Okay. Because I got a couple of questions that are exactly the same. They're raised up in April, okay? And essentially what you can do, you know the date of your meter read in April?
Yes.
Okay, so 10, 15 days before that date, Go on the website, fill out the enrollment form, and you'll be switched over on that meter read.
All right, and why would anybody, the cheapest one is the basic, correct? The return, the 16 versus,
Yeah, that's the 16310,
yeah. And the other is
16710.
1671, so it's gone.
It all depends on your personal preference if you want renewable energy in there or not. If you don't, you go to the basic.
Can you still pay the same way? You don't have to use a credit card or bank?
You pay the same way that you do now with Eversource, however that is.
Question. This young man in the black coat.
You've been very clear, so thank you very much for this meeting. I just want to make sure I understand. If I don't do anything, I'm going to move into the Marshfield standard, as outlined in your slide.
That's correct.
And if I wanted to move to the least expensive, I know there'd be less clean energy, I have to do something.
You have to call direct energy, right? And the number is right in the center of the sheet on front.
Okay, thank you.
Question. This young lady down front.
So we don't have, if we wanted to take direct energy, then should we send something in or just not do anything?
Well, if you want to be in the program, in the standard product, you don't have to do anything.
Okay.
You'll automatically be switched over.
Okay, so you don't
Okay.
have to send anything.
Yeah, you're on the basic service,
Okay.
right? Eversource basic service.
Yeah.
Then you'll automatically be switched.
Question. This young lady way back.
So come spring of 2024, if the rates that are being bidded out, we could actually come December 2024, not be with Direct Energy, it would be whoever you bid out to, right? Because Direct Energy, when I called them in, they said they won the bid for Marshfield. So are you saying come spring, if you know your different rates, it'll be a different company that could bid us out or bid for us?
What happens for each renewal, as with the launch, we have to go out for a competitive bid with large national suppliers. We put those bids in front of the town. The town officials say, yes, we think this option is the best. And again, in 2024, that may be with Direct Energy, it may not be. Okay? But it all depends on what the town chooses at that point in time. And again, it's a competitive bid.
So if it turns doesn't become Direct Energy and the town goes with a different energy company, we would not be penalized or whatever. It would just roll over to whatever the new rates are.
Oh, no, not at all. And you would be informed well in advance. And again, that process would be automatic. You'd be put in the same product moving forward after December 2024 as you're in before.
John, can you just explain the credentials of Direct Energy to our citizens?
Direct Energy is one of the 4 or 5 largest energy companies in the country. Again, we only deal with the largest companies because they're the ones that are most dependable. They're the ones that can handle these programs. We get calls all the time from smaller energy companies that want to do business with us, but they don't have the experience, they don't have the financial backup, and we just can't deal with them because we want things to run smoothly. Okay, so essentially, we only deal with the biggest suppliers. Direct Energy is one of them.
Questions? Young lady in the red jacket.
Can you talk to us about what the voluntary renewable energy sources are?
Again, we get our Class 1 renewable energy certificates from Green Energy Consumers Alliance. They have, they get their RECs, renewable energy certificates, from projects in mostly Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine. It's mostly wind, it's a little bit solar, it's a little bit low-impact hydro, and the fun one, it's a little bit of anaerobic digestion, which is cow power, okay? And what that is, they take cow manure, they mix it with vegetation, it produces methane gas, and that methane gas produces electricity. And that's one of the renewable options, okay? You will get, on a quarterly basis, all right, an energy disclosure label, the same as you do now from Eversource, that'll tell you where this energy is coming from, the renewable energy, and the rest of it as well.
Have you ever not been able to produce that 10% voluntary energy and had to go somewhere else to get it?
No. No, Green Energy Consumers Alliance is always increasing the amount of renewable energy certificates they are sourcing, because they know we're going to be putting on more aggregations, and they need to get those things to do business with us.
Questions? This young lady on the left.
Me.
Yes.
I'm a little confused because the city I lived in prior to moving here a couple of years ago, Newton, they've been doing like clean energy stuff through the town, city for a number of years, and it was generally more expensive than the market rate. So,
Well, one of the things that Newton does, okay, they are very concerned about the environment. So instead of that 10% that's in here, and again, the town did this not only to put a little more renewable energy in that standard product, but also to make it affordable, okay? What Newton does, I think Newton is up to close to 50% now in that standard product. So
I just knew it was more expensive to.
yeah, it is. You know, and that's why, you know, again, the city gives you the choice of going up to that 100% product if you want. So you know, the city the town wanted to give you options that everybody could participate in.
Questions? This young man right here with the hat on.
Yes, sir. Can you tell me, so earlier you said that Situate and Cohasset, I believe, are in the program. And are their prices different from Marshfield's prices, and how are the prices?
They're all the same. All six of these communities that went out to bid together. And again, on bid day, we had a meeting, and they all chose these options. Okay, they're all the same price.
Question? This young man on the center aisle.
Yeah, which taxes can you deduct? The difference between the charge?
If you go to the plus product, which is 100%, okay, that's the 17,850. All right, the difference between that rate and the basic rate of 16,310 defines the amount of renewable energy. Okay, that's the slice that you would get a tax deduction for.
Is that from state taxes or federal taxes?
Your income taxes, state and federal.
Oh,
Question? This young lady right up there.
So you know how you're saying it's fixed rate for 21 months, right? And it also says on the paperwork that future savings are not guaranteed. So is that referring to compared to Eversource? Like Eversource's prices may go down and therefore it wouldn't be a savings any longer?
That's correct. That's compared to the basic rate of Eversource. And that's a disclaimer we have to put in there. It's a requirement of the Department of Public Utilities, okay? Essentially, Charlie, can we go back to that graph slide? You can see that this program started for this large aggregation we have in January of 2016. You can see how the orange line compares to the Eversource line. You can see in 2020 and 2021, the Eversource summer rate dipped below the aggregation rate, okay? And that's what we're comparing. Now, there's a reason that that dipped below in those two instances. That was during the COVID lockdowns, where there was a less demand for natural gas prices went down. Natural gas prices are a precursor for electricity rates here in Massachusetts. And at the point in time when Eversource and National Grid went out to bid, they were very favorable markets. So they were able to get very good rates during those two periods. Okay? But that's what we're comparing it to. We're comparing it to the basic rate of Eversource.
Additional questions? This young lady in the red jacket.
So when I look at that chart for, I think it's 2023, it's 25,776, and yet when I look at my bill, my rate is 22,289.
Okay, what bill are you looking at?
It's due February 13th, so it's pretty recent.
All right, you probably have a situation there where you have a blended rate, okay, with Eversource. Your bill straddled two markets, okay, and it's a blended rate. That's why it's different.
Questions? I just want to, so while people are thinking of some additional questions, so I mentioned that this was a town meeting initiative by two of our residents that thought it was important that we get into green energy. And when they got together with their committee, I just know because I went to the meetings, they addressed some of the stuff that John mentioned, and that was they wanted to make it affordable. And that's, you know, one of their concerns is they wanted to make sure as many people as possible could get into and participate in green energy. And a lot of that had to do with where we live in the Commonwealth. We live in a very environmentally fragile area. We have beautiful coastline and beaches and a lot of open space and green space, and we want to preserve that. And one of the ways to do that is by lessening fossil fuel and buying greener fuel. There is, of course, a cost to that. We lucked out when we went to market, so it was very favorable. Questions? This young man in the blue shirt.
At one time, Marshfield was thinking about putting solar panels up on the dump and in other areas. Are they still thinking of that? And if they do, who would we sell that energy to?
So we are doing that with NextGrid. That's something totally different. That doesn't have anything to do with this green energy. When I was hired as the town administrator, the select board wanted to get into green energy. We engaged with another company that then got moved out. NextGrid took over. So we're putting photovoltaics up all around town. All municipal buildings, whether it's roofs or carports. We're using electric vehicles. We're getting into electric. The thing is, I'm waiting to purchase 3 more electric vehicles, and we've been waiting already 1.5 years, and they're telling us another 1.5 years. But the Cap landfill is one of the biggest areas, and we're being held up by NSTAR, Eversource, because they have to upgrade the 2 power stations to be able to take in all of that power. So we're a few years away from that, but if you go by the new police station right now, and you look in the parking lot, you'll see the carports. Those are carports with photovoltaics on the roof. We're gonna have those in a number of parking lots across the town, municipally owned buildings. We're gonna have photovoltaics on the roof of some buildings, some school buildings, some town buildings, and we will have battery storage also.
Getting on to the town dump again, what are we doing with the methane gas that's burning off of there?
It has no effect whatsoever on the photovoltaics. The photovoltaics,
But are we using that methane, are we selling it back or using it for power? Or is it just going into the environment?
We don't sell that. Other questions?
All right, you all have my cell phone number if you think of other questions, or my email address. Thank you all for being here. A lot of good questions. And again, if you think of any others, just give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, John. And we have these cards, if you come up to Town Hall, you may have seen these cards, we have them on all the windows, and it's got information, some of the information we went over tonight on benefits and features, as well as the email address and the telephone number. In case you lost it, we have plenty of these cards at Town Hall. Thank you, and have a great night, everyone.